Indoor Matters with Damien and Sarah.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Indoor Matters, the podcast where we tackle, what matters to your indoor health. I'm Damien, and I'm really glad you could join us again. Today we're going to be looking into something that might make you rethink your next iced Karak break here in Dubai. We're talking about those seemingly harmless paper straws. You know, the ones we've all switched to thinking we're making a better choice for the environment. But what if I told you there might be a hidden danger lurking in those paper sippers? Before we get into that, though, I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, Sani Service. They're Dubai's leading experts when it comes to indoor environmental health and quality management. Whether it's air quality, water quality, or surface testing, they've got you covered. So if you're ever concerned about anything in your Dubai home or office, visit their website at www.saniservice.com. And don't forget to mention Indoor Matters for a special discount on their incredible indoor science testing services. Okay, back to those paper straws. So I'm joined by our resident indoor environmental expert, Sarah.
Hey, Damien. Always a pleasure to be here.
Sarah, you've been looking into this, and it turns out paper straws might not be the eco-warriors we thought they were?
Right. They often contain something called PFAS, per- polyfluoroalkyl substances. There are actually over 12,000 of these synthetic chemicals, and they've earned a pretty ominous nickname, forever chemicals.
Forever chemicals. Okay, now I'm really intrigued and a little bit scared. What makes them forever?
Well, these chemicals are designed to be super resilient. They resist breaking down, which means they can stick around in the environment and even our bodies for thousands of years.
Thousands of years. That's mind-blowing. So how did these forever chemicals end up in something as simple as a paper straw?
PFAS have been widely used in manufacturing for decades. They're in everything from waterproof coatings to non-stick cookware to firefighting foam.
Yeah.
You probably got a bunch of things in your Dubai home that contain them right now.
Wait a minute. You're telling me my non-stick pan might have these forever chemicals in it? That's kind of unsettling.
It's true. The problem is that PFAS can leach from those products into things they come into contact with, including our food and drinks.
So I'm trying to do the right thing by using a paper straw, but I could be ingesting these harmful chemicals without even realizing it.
That's the unfortunate reality. And it seems paper straws are especially susceptible to PFAS contamination.
Just how common is this contamination? Should I be ditching all my paper straws right now?
It's definitely something to be aware of. A significant portion of paper straws on the market contain PFAS.
Wow. Okay, what about bamboo straws? Those are pretty popular here in Dubai, too.
Unfortunately, bamboo straws also have high levels of PFAS contamination, not as high as paper straws, but still a cause for concern.
So what about those classic plastic straws? Are they any better?
They do contain PFAS, but in lower percentages than paper and bamboo. And glass straws have even lower levels.
So what's the safest option if we want to avoid these forever chemicals altogether?
It seems stainless steel straws are the clear winner here. They're consistently free of PFAS.
That's interesting. It's ironic, isn't it? We're trying to ditch plastic to protect the environment. And it turns out the old school stainless steel straw might be the most eco-friendly choice after all.
It does seem a bit backwards, but it just goes to show that we need to look beyond the surface when it comes to these things. Biodegradability can be a misleading term, especially when you're dealing with PFAS. Even if the straw itself breaks down, those forever chemicals remain and can contaminate the soil and water.
That's a really important point. It makes you wonder if all this focus on single-use plastic alternatives might be overshadowing the potential dangers of other materials.
Absolutely. We have to consider the whole picture, not just swap out one material for another without understanding the entire production process and the chemicals involved.
So we've got our stainless steel straws, which is great, but I'm still thinking about all those other products you mentioned. If these forever chemicals are in so many things, how do we begin to avoid them?
It can feel overwhelming for sure, but the first step is awareness. Once you know what to look for, you can start making more informed choices.
Okay, so awareness is key. What else can we do?
Well, let's talk about those nonstick pans. If you have older ones, there's a good chance they contain PFAS. Consider switching to newer ceramic or cast iron options.
That's a good point. I'll definitely be checking my cookware when I get home. And what about all the takeaway food we order here in Dubai? All that packaging. It can't all be PFAS-free, can it?
You're right. Food packaging is a major culprit. PFAS are often used to make it grease-proof and water-resistant.
So every time I order shawarma, I'm potentially getting a side of forever chemicals.
It's a possibility. Try to choose restaurants that use more sustainable packaging, and when you're cooking at home, opt for glass or ceramic containers instead of plastic wrap.
Okay, can definitely do that. What about when I'm out shopping for other products? Are there any red flags on labels I should watch out for?
Unfortunately, labeling regulations for PFAS are still pretty inconsistent. Some products list specific PFAS chemicals, while others use vague terms like fluorinated compounds.
So how are we supposed to know what's safe?
It takes a little detective work. Do your research online, look up brands and products, and see if you can find any information about PFAS content. And don't be afraid to reach out to companies directly and ask them about their manufacturing processes.
I like that holding companies accountable.
Yeah.
The more people demand transparency, the more likely they are to listen.
Exactly. And remember, you're not alone in this. There are researchers, scientists, and activists all over the world working hard to address this PFAS problem. There's a growing movement to phase out these forever chemicals entirely.
That's good to hear. It can feel a little daunting sometimes, but knowing that there are people fighting for change gives me hope.
So we've talked a lot about avoiding PFAS, but I think it's important to discuss the health risks too. What are we actually risking when we're exposed to these chemicals?
You're right. The health risks are a serious concern. Studies have linked PFAS exposure to a wide range of issues.
What kind of issues are we talking about?
Well, for one, PFAS can mess with our immune systems. There's evidence they can reduce the effectiveness of vaccines, especially in children. Wait, seriously? So even if I'm getting my kids vaccinated, these chemicals could be undermining their protection. That's terrifying.
It is a concern, and it doesn't stop there. PFAS can also disrupt our hormone levels, leading to thyroid dysfunction and other problems.
Hormonal issues are never fun. Anything else we should be aware of?
There's also growing concern about the link between PFAS exposure and certain types of cancer, particularly kidney and testicular cancer.
Okay, this is all starting to sound pretty serious.
It is, and pregnant women and developing fetuses are especially vulnerable. PFAS can cross the placenta, and there's a possible link to low birth weight and developmental delays in children.
I know we're talking about indoor health here, but this is making me think about all the outdoor spaces our kids play in here in Dubai. Parks, beaches, are those areas contaminated too?
Unfortunately, PFAS are very persistent in the environment. They can leach into groundwater and soil, and they've even been found in remote areas like the Arctic.
Wow, so there's really no escaping them. These chemicals are everywhere.
It's true that PFAS are widespread, which is why it's so important to take steps to minimize our exposure. But remember, we're not powerless in this situation. Every little action we take can add up to a big difference.
So what you're saying is every stainless steel straw, every non-stick pan swap, every email we send to companies demanding transparency, it all matters.
Absolutely. Individual actions multiplied by millions of people can create real change.
It's like that saying, think globally, act locally. We can start by making changes in our own homes and communities here in Dubai, and then spread the word to others.
Exactly. And don't forget, we're not alone in this. There are researchers, scientists, and activists all over the world working tirelessly to address this problem. There's a growing movement to phase out PFAS entirely.
And that's encouraging to hear. So while the situation may seem daunting, there's hope on the horizon.
There's always hope, but it requires us to stay informed, engaged, and proactive.
Well said. This has been an eye-opening conversation. I think I speak for many of our listeners when I say that I had no idea about the potential risks associated with paper straws.
It's a topic that's often overlooked, but it's crucial that we bring it to light. Awareness is the first step towards change.
You know, before we wrap up, I have one more question. We've talked about avoiding PFAS in things like cookware and food packaging. But what about our clothes? A lot of outdoor gear is designed to be water resistant. Does that mean it contains PFAS too?
You're right to be concerned about that. PFAS are commonly used in water-resistant clothing and textiles.
So my raincoat and those fancy new hiking boots I bought for my desert treks could be harboring these forever chemicals.
It's a possibility. Look for clothing and gear made with PFAS-free alternatives, like those labeled with PFC-free or DWR-free.
I'm learning so much today. It's amazing how these chemicals have infiltrated so many aspects of our lives. But it's also empowering to know that we have choices. We can choose to buy products that are safer for ourselves and the environment.
Yeah, this whole conversation has really got me thinking, what does it truly mean to live a healthy and sustainable life here in Dubai? It's not just about swapping plastic bags for reusable ones or opting for paper straws, right? It's about digging deeper and understanding the materials we use and advocating for safer alternatives.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
We have to be conscious consumers. It's not always easy, but it's worth it for our health and the health of the planet.
Thanks for sharing all this incredible information with us today. I know our listeners are feeling much more informed and hopefully empowered to make some positive changes in their own lives.
Always great to chat about these important topics.
And of course, a huge thank you to Sandy Service for sponsoring this episode. If you're ever concerned about your indoor environment here in Dubai, they are the experts to call. Visit their website at www.sandyservice.com. And remember to mention Indoor Matters for a special discount on their fantastic indoor science testing services. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay healthy.